Hey everybody, today Rahdo runs down the Unlock Secret Adventure series. This is the latest 3 games in Space Cowboy's very successful, very popular Unlock series, which are basically escape rooms that you can do in your own home with your friends and family. And now, I've already done videos for the previous games in the Unlock series. If you want to hit that eye up there, you can go watch a video that explains how the core systems work. And none of these 3 games change the core experience. Like the last series, though, the most important thing is they have introduced machine-specific gameplay, almost mini-games, into the app integration because the Unlock series requires that you have a smartphone or a tablet or something nearby to be able to get the full experience. They don't work on their own. Now, right off the bat, that will kill the game for some players, but it's what really makes the Unlock series stand out. And I gotta say, this latest set of 3 pushes the app integration further than any other one and does some very fun, cool, and surprising stuff with them. Now, I don't want to spoil anything. I don't intend to spoil anything about these. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking about Gens and my experience playing them. Starting with a no-side story, which is interesting because this is the first sequel to one of the first 3 games was set in a funny, silly Rube Goldberg, Warner Brothers, Looney Tunes-esque universe where we were running around interacting with cartoon scenarios, and we've gone back into that world here because No Side is back, as is the cute little mouse that I don't remember his name. Actually, I do remember his name, but I'm not going to say anything. But this one is actually rated on the back of the box as the easiest of the 3. This has a 1 out of 3 locks difficulty rating, and I would say that's fair. Jen and I, we hardly ran into any stoppers here. This was just a very light, breezy experience, a great introduction. If these were the first you would ever want to buy, this would be a great start. You don't need to know the previous story at all. You just know you're in a cartoon world with a mad scientist trying to stop him. And interestingly, of these 3, I would say No Side Story is the least ambitious because over time, the Unlock series has morphed and evolved from what was originally starting to do, recreate literal escape rooms, into big adventures that kind of harken back to the glory days of old LucasArts or Sierra point-and-click adventures, like your King's Quest and stuff like that. But the Nosedive story is a very, very small, intimate thing. It could almost be recreated in a real-world escape room. It was fine. It was fun. It was clever and charming. We laughed out loud a couple of times, and it worked okay. Now, moving on to Tombstone Express. This one was our favorite by far. We liked this one a lot. And in fact, I think at this point, this is my favorite Unlock game to date. And that is because, well, unlike No Side Story, this one is not confining itself to, just, oh, look, we're just moving through a couple of rooms and solving puzzles. This one actually kind of emulates those murder mystery trains you can do in real life. I don't know if you've ever done one. Jen and I did one years ago, where you get on a train, a real live train that's gonna go down the tracks, and you're served dinner, and there's actors who walk around and interact with you because there's a murder that everybody, all the customers have to solve. That's pretty much what's happening here, although you're actually a law person on a train that only has an hour till it gets to the station, trying to figure out who on the train was responsible for the crime that happens. And this is so cool because this is full of people that you interact with, which has only been a minor, tiny bit of any Unlock game before now. But now you're walking around from room to room on this train, solving puzzles, like always, but also talking to people, trying to figure out who's telling you the truth and who's lying, because when it's all over, you are going to have to decide, right, who was it that committed the crime? And, that goes towards determining whether you win or lose and what your final score is. Liked it a lot. And now also, if that weren't enough, just fundamentally, flipping the script on how these things work and giving you all these characters to deal with in addition to the regular puzzles and whatnot, this is also cool because, like I was saying, these games really push the app in new directions. The app is there are things that are happening completely unrelated to you. As you're playing along, trying to solve, the particular puzzles or talk to people and figure out who's lying and stuff like that, events will get pushed on you. And you're like, oh, we've got to deal with this now because it's the Wild, Wild West and it's a dangerous place. And now there's a couple of these different events that pop up, that kind of interfere with the train getting to the station that we've got to solve. One of them I've seen a lot of people really dislike it. They think it's very silly and out of place. All I gotta say, Jen and I, we loved it. It was so cool when we realized, oh my gosh, this is what we have to do? You're going to make us do this? This is so cool. And we really enjoyed it. But, some people think it's very silly and gimmicky. I can't say what it is because I don't want to spoil it. But, it was one of the things that really made this for us. And, overall, this was a blast. There were more, come on, this is ridiculous kind of things. But, the final solution, even though we didn't figure it out, the reason we didn't figure out was awesome. And I don't want to spoil it for you because it was so cool. And now we come to the last one, The Adventures of Oz. And now this one has, for Jen and me, the dreaded 3 out of 3 difficulty rating. And now this is really interesting. This is not, I would have assumed this was a reimagining of the world of Oz and hey, we're going to explore and go our own way. It's not. This is a very dutiful retelling, with a few twists here and there, of the original film. And it's interesting. If you've never seen the film, there's one puzzle, maybe two. I remember there was one very distinct puzzle that you will literally not know what to do because it required knowledge of the movie. Now, I don't think that's going to be too much problem because probably everybody is familiar with The Wizard of Oz. But that's something to bear in mind. But there's a bigger issue. Of course, if you know Oz, you know that it takes place somewhere over the rainbow. The rainbow is a big part of this game, which is to say color-based puzzles. And I suspect, I don't know for certain, but if you are a colorblind player, like 10% of all board gamers, 10% of all men in the world are colorblind. They can't tell, they have a hard time telling the difference between red and green. If you're somebody like that, you will have a hard time. This is not a colorblind friendly at all adventure because of the thematic bringing in of Somewhere Over the Rainbow and all the color-based stuff. So that's something. Now, of course, these are collaborative adventures, so that's only going to be a problem if you're playing these solo by yourself and you're colorblind. If that's the case, though, you will run into trouble. Now, if you know on a rainbow where the individual colors are supposed to fall, you can kind of get around it to a certain extent, but I think it will be problematic, and that's just an issue you got to know going in. Another thing I think you got to know going into this is that when you set up the app and you get going, you'll be surprised to see, oh, you have 90 minutes for this. Unlike every other unlock, I think. Maybe there's another 90-minute adventure once. But you got to know this is a long one. And, it's a hard one. Actually, interestingly, for the most part, Jen and I, we had very little trouble. But for the final act, towards the end, things got really hard. And I don't know how hard they were. The puzzles didn't seem, with the benefit of hindsight, that much tougher. But we were so mentally exhausted by the time we got to the end of this that I got to say, and this was actually a rant I made on my recent Exit the Game series, where I complained about how the fundamental structure of these, where they have tough puzzles, they just get tougher and tougher, and at the end they throw really nasty, impossible ones at you. I think that is a mistake, and it's something Unlock is doing more and more. They've always done it. Of the toughest puzzles come at the end when you have almost no time, you're under the most stress, and you are the most mentally exhausted. That's totally backwards. These would be so much more engaging and wouldn't leave a potentially bad taste in your mouth if, hey, when we're at our most mentally exhausted and time is up, this is when the pace should increase and we're just zipping along instead of, boom, we just get hit with massive walls. And, this one, honestly, while this is my favorite of all the series so far, this is our least favorite. We walked away after we played this saying, ugh, do we want to play any more of these? Because it really suffered from that end boss fight. I think the developers, if they wanted to do a 90-minute adventure, somewhere halfway through, we should have come to a card saying, hey, you know what? You've been going at it for a while. Why don't you put this away? Here's how you can save your progress. There's an app. Why couldn't we save our progress? And then you can pick it up for part 2 tomorrow night. I think we would have had more fun if we had done that. Trying to sit down, for us, it was really problematic, drug it to a halt, and puzzles that we might have been able to figure out, we were just so fried. I don't know. Like I said, if you want, you can go watch my Exits, the series, where I complained about this kind of boss fight syndrome that the developers of escape rooms at home seem to want to do. I think it's a mistake, and this one, Well, like I said, if you're colorblind and you're going to play by yourself, you probably want to skip on it anyway. If you don't enjoy being made to feel stupid, you might want. Although on the flip side, if you love really hard ones, that's the one to seek out. One more thing I will say about this one as well. That's not true for these other ones. This one, almost all the way through, there were not branching, divergent. Oh, look, here's 3 or 4 different things we can work on. It was always. Almost always, here's just one thing we can work on. And no matter how big your group is, everybody's going to have to focus. Now, that wasn't a problem for me and Jen because we always play these 2 players. But I think this one might not be as good with bigger groups of players because there's no, okay, well, I'll work on this puzzle over here. You work on that puzzle over here. There's most of the time, not always, but most of the time, only one puzzle. So that's something to bear in mind with The Adventure of Oz. Now, don't get me wrong. There were really cool, clever moments in this, like all of them, and I'm very impressed by the design chops that have gone into this, how they can keep reinventing themselves and come up with new and interesting ways to tell a story, but also giving us puzzles and have a big, grand adventure. It does all that well, but for us, for our taste, there were definitely some missteps along the way, or at least some missteps in design that forced us to make missteps that left us not happy. Whereas when we finished this one, I was like, oh, that was nice. When we finished this one, we were over the moon. We really enjoyed it. Although this one seems kind of Marmite. I've seen a lot of people think this is the worst one they've ever played. But this one for us, still, there's another set coming out in a few months, so, enough time will pass that I will have forgotten about our worries with this one, and I will be very excited because overall, like always, these are great, fun adventures to share with your friends and family at home. And then once you're done, just sort the cards back in the right order, put them back in the box, and they make excellent gifts. And that's it, folks. The Unlock Secret Adventure series. Thanks for watching. Have a very nice day. Talk to you later. So long. Bye-bye.